Good morning. It's Friday, January 23rd. We're going to spend some time on water quality. As we know, in farming, farmers are most concerned about water quality, and there's other people that are as well. So we're going to meet with the Farmers Watershed Alliance. And who wants to lead off?
I can lead off.
Come on up, sir.
All right, where do we sit?
Right there in that chair. Yeah.
Larry, it's now on mine.
Okay, good.
Awesome.
And just tell us who you are. And the
Sure.
floor is yours.
All right, so I'm Scott Magnan. I'm the chair of the Farmers Watershed Alliance. A little bit of written testimony, but we definitely want to have some like roundtable conversation. It sounds like you had some great topics yesterday that they sound very interesting. So maybe we could work off that conversation a little bit if it's applicable.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, I'll start with just telling you about our organization. So the Farmers Watershed Alliance supports the agricultural community and water quality improvements and other environmental topics in the Franklin County, Grand Isle region. We have relationships that extend that outreach to most of the state. We were formed about 20 years ago and have had major impacts on field practices in place today. We have 11 board members and 2 staff members. We currently provide outreach and education, hosting or co-hosting 3 or more events each year. In addition, primarily through the state-funded CWIP grant, we are able to help support farmers in projects surrounding precision agriculture and conservation equipment. Much of the equipment is often on farms with state invested seed dollars. Precision agriculture maximizes the utilization of nutrients and enhances record keeping. We also provide assistance to help that data get utilized, targeting key goals set forth in the tactical basin plan. Also set as a basin plan goal, our collaboration with UVM Extension, Agency of Ag, other water quality groups and agencies give the farmers a seat at the table at many events each year. It further enhances the productivity or improved water quality on farms. It's kind of overview in a nutshell of what our organization is and has been. Certainly it's been more than that, but that's an overview. So my history is I grew up on a dairy farm.
Where are you from?
I'm from St. Albans.
Yep.
Yes. My dad farmed like 60 cows in a tie stall barn. He had 8 brothers and sisters, most of them in the ag community. I think there's only one left that actually milks cows. I still farm 200 acres of cropland. But primarily I've been a service provider to farmers doing custom crop work. And then my role also went into precision agriculture as a dealer for AgVeeder technology. And I feel like we're definitely still like trying to adapt to how the world has changed from a lot of different angles. Like it used to be, we could calculate our expense of our equipment or labor costs, we could do business. And now like all these other buckets keep getting bigger and bigger and bigger, which adds complexity to it. Just some stats on affordability. Last year, our receivables went up by 130%. So now we're forced to send out letters to farmers and tighten our belts there, not knowing if like that work will still be there. We don't want to force the hand of like people that have supported us to go out, but we can't handle that type of cost.
Could you repeat that? What just went up?
Account receivable on our services we provide to other farmers. So like installs on equipment, doing custom work, going to their farm and baling and spreading manure. So that number's good. And we've always had it be in like the $50,000 range, which is something we could kind of roll over and manage. But this year we were running like 140, 160. Which we can't sustain that. So we had to get it back to that other level. But it was a metric that I could throw out there as something that shows that it's gotten harder on the affordability front. So just the bucket I talked about, like accounting's gone up significantly. It's probably tripled or more in 10 years. That used to be a couple $1,000s a year. Now, yeah, QuickBooks, which used to be a software program you could use for 4 or 5 years. Now you got an annual fee of $2,000, and then with tax laws and whatnot, accounting's gone up and their cost of living. So like that bucket's gotten really big. Insurance has gotten really big. Taxes have gotten big. So those sidebar buckets on top of fertilizer costs and whatnot, those buckets are getting bigger on the affordability front. Which sounds that adds stress, which sounds like you guys talked a lot about yesterday, and also the constant change in business structure. So one thing we're doing is just trying to get more out of our farm. We've got 50 acres of woodlands we own. We're trying to build trails and have like a food forest and open that up to farm members.
What are you cropping on your farm?
So we mostly hay, soybeans, and corn as our commodity crops. And then this one's going more into fruits or more fruits, like fruit trees. I want to combine like mountain biking, see a mountain bike and pick food and
Yeah.
kind of hit agritourism, and healthy living and good food. And just an extra revenue source. We're doing maple there, so trying to keep it small scale and just do it on farm members so they can be part of the ag community, but then try and figure out liability insurance and how that fits. So there's Act 31 passed, which should allow for agritourism and trail use, but then you talk to the insurance company, it doesn't really do much. The act's there, but it basically protects them, not the farmer in some regard. I mean, it might help your premiums or it might not, depending how they want to look at it. So like the law tried to help the farmer, but kind of help the insurance company, but somebody's still going to fight the legal battle.
Well,
So
that's good information.
even with the legislation, it's still not necessary. It still could raise the cost to me to be able to do what I want, and maybe we can't do it or have to tailor around what we can do, can't do. Some of that's good, but it's also an obstacle that you're trying to figure out how to stay in agriculture and find those niche markets, and then overcome whatever obstacles are in the way.
Where are your soybeans going?
Soybeans are going to a commodity market, so I think we don't sell directly to Canada, but our vendor does.
Yeah.
So that's going to be a hurdle, and we're nervous about it. We are looking at like dry beans, like so there's another business I think in Warren that does dry beans. We're considering like maybe we can utilize that local market. Hope they're doing well enough to be able to pay what we need to get paid. Trying to pull out of that commodity market a little bit, but in some regards, that commodity market is helpful because you can sell high volume. And
So you're hearing about the soybean and trade and all that stuff.
Mhm.
Are you feeling that pinch as far as that market, or?
it lowered our price a little bit. We weren't overly profitable this year on soybeans. Nervous about the future of what that market looks like for sure, especially if there's tariffs on Canada. I mean, if we go there, then we got to look for another port, which inevitably is going to lower our price, most likely.
Right. What are you doing with your corn? Picking it or silage?
We pick, that also goes to the vendor in Highgate. Most of that's distributed locally, but it's still on a commodity market. So we'll use the Chicago Board of Trade to lock in price. So we can pick our futures price anytime during the year for December. So we can basically legalize gambling. Just hope you lock in a profitable price. Like we'll try and lock in like one contract that's profitable, maybe a second that shoots pretty high. In hopes we definitely hit the profitable one.
So do you pick it and store it, or you pick it and get rid of it?
We pick it and get rid of it, and the bins are in Heidi. Your Shea Fertilizer set up bins there. There's a couple places we could sell to locally. So one's direct to a farm and then Pat deals with commodity markets and the forward trade.
So I'm sorry to keep on pressuring you with questions, but
Yeah, no.
just,
Good.
you know, again, education for us is very, very big.
Mhm.
Your business that you're going around doing custom service.
Yeah.
What do you have for equipment?
So round balers, manure spreaders, a bunk tractor, mowers. So that my model, we had an uncle that farmed a couple thousand cows, so we were pretty big there. Since I've invested more in the smaller operations just because of the investment's less for me. I'm getting older. There's demand there still, less demand each year, but still some demand. So we chose that path. And then the precision ag sales and service is probably geared more towards bigger agriculture that can cover more acres.
So when you say mowers, are the self-propelled type, the big
Yeah,
drones or the?
I have a self-propelled that's a 15 foot head, not as big as the big amps, but we still cover a couple thousand acres a year with it. So, yep, but that's down from
Thanks,
what it
Mr.
used to
Chair.
be.
So Scott, in terms of regulatory entities, do you interact more with ANR or the ag agency?
Good question. So I definitely have that in my testimony. So with regulation, we've had a relationship with the Agency of Agriculture over a lot of years. I think we've had meetings with them about how they do business. We receive funding from them. It's generally been I think there's been times where that hasn't been a good relationship, but we worked through it. So right now, I think it is a very good relationship. We definitely have concerns where things have headed and why they have headed there with ANR. We feel like the general consensus with the board is ANR has had some opportunity to enforce where they haven't enforced, which now is leading to another level of regulation. So now we're going to have we're still going to be under the RAPs, but we're adopting CAFO, and now they're going to comply with two. Some farms have to comply with two things, which is going to raise cost, and then we're going to move. As a state, we're going to move resources from Agency of Ag so they can develop with ANR, which is going to be a cost issue. And I'm not sure if any of that really does anything for water quality at all, because it's not boots on the ground. It's a lot of bureaucracy. And that's kind of our opinion on it. Maybe there can be some good out of it, but we see it being a lot of work, a lot of meetings. And if they don't do what they could have already done, then the letter is going to come back.
Yeah. One of the things that struck me yesterday, I don't know if the other committee members feel the same way. So if you're an LFO, you have annual inspections from the agency. And I didn't realize, from what I heard, the turnover that exists there with the staff, so that someone may come and inspect the farm, and then maybe the next year as well, and then there's somewhere else in the agency, or they move somewhere else, or they're not there anymore. So there's a sort of continuing lack, for a better term, of institutional knowledge. In other words, if I kept coming to your farm, eventually I kind of get what you're doing, and
Correct.
I try my best to make it as easy. I didn't realize how stressful the annual inspections could be, but it was
Yep.
pretty clear that, you know, there used to be 2 days worth of walking, and now it's one, but it's a full day, and you're almost afraid to say too much for fear that it might trigger something else. I don't know whether your experience is similar, where you see a turnover all the time.
My personal experience is because I'm a small farm. Larry could definitely speak to it because he's a large
Yeah, I think
farm.
we've lost Larry.
And Tim has also had some experience with inspectors
Okay.
as well.
Yeah.
So I might let those guys talk a little more to that. But within our board, there's concern in our meetings about how those inspections are gonna be handled, and we've met with agency staff in the past to help with that inspection process. Tim being one of those cases that triggered a meeting with the agency and Anson, and it was a very productive meeting, which led to some positive results. And
Do what?
now we have to do it again as it shifts over to A and R. But like repeat the process, and understand their process. So I could think, and one of the things I put in like that would help the ag committee is just clear expectations, consistent and fair regulation and competitive markets.
Yeah, we
Should
do
be
that.
all top priorities.
Supposedly ag and A&R are gonna work together to do a transition.
Correct.
And if you don't believe that's happening, please come back to let the committee know.
I think it is happening, like I think it is happening, but is it necessary?
I think I was struck with that too, and I've actually, have taken that, concern, Senator, that you had with that in your observation, and, I've expressed that to the agency, with that, today. And to go just kind of what Senator Heffernan alluded to, come back and talk to us. I think that is one of the things that I was most impressed about this committee and the group that was in here is how much we are aligned, how much we're paying attention. And sometimes you don't know that you are until you're told that by the group that you are supposed to be helping. So, we would encourage everyone to make sure that they keep in touch with us. I think yesterday showed us that we have a good finger on the pulse of what's important to farmers, and the political side of it. So why don't we bring in, who wants to go next? And then we can.
Just let Larry,
Discussion.
Larry's probably gonna be better.
Larry?
Oh, he's back.
Larry, you're on, Larry. And you're muted. There you
There
are.
you go.
Hey, good morning. I'm glad to take part in this meeting there this morning. Just give you a quick update about myself. I just went through a knee replacement surgery, not doing very well. So my mind's not really too much into everything. So I might.
Just tell us who you, just for the record, Larry, just tell us who you are.
This is Larry Jarvis. I'm a dairy farmer in Enosburg. I'm vice chair of Farmers Watershed, Franklin Grand Isle Watershed Committee. I also sit on Enosburg Select Board for about 15 years. And our farm is a family farm, but it's classified under a large farm operation. It's actually two dairies rolled into one and one permit under the LFO permit, two different locations. We milk approximately 2,000 cows total, another over 2,000 replacements. And we crop over, I would say, close to 4,000 acres of grass, corn land.
You heard that the governor has proposed eliminating the MFO and LFO permit costs. And that was something that we're going to take up with this committee as well to, as the governor has said, we shouldn't be at this point in time with the price of milk. We shouldn't be asking these people to pay just for the right to farm. We hope that we're successful. I know this committee is going to be successful as far as pushing that forward. I feel strongly about. We'll try to shepherd it through the rest of the building.
That's just for the LFOs and MFOs. It does not apply to LFOs.
LFO and MFO, both medium and large farms.
Okay, that'd be great because I've always thought that was kind of money not well spent at all, and I think it's up to $2,500 a year for LFO.
Yeah.
And 1,500 for the MFOs.
Like Scott alluded to, his cost as a custom applicator has gone up. The cost for us farmers have gone up astronomically. You can just roll a dollar over so many times to figure out where you're going to put it and to help your farm be more profitable. And these escalating costs is, it's a real thing that we don't know going forward how we're going to apply it to the right areas to keep farming viably.
So I'd asked Scott, and he referenced that as a LFO, you deal a lot of times, well, every year with the agency in terms of inspections. Do you see the same inspector year after year after year, or are there new faces all the time? And what sort of relationship do you have?
We had originally we had Katie Gear for many years. She was the main one for us, and then there was a little bit of a turnover for a few years, and we've had David Wardrop for the last, I'm guessing, maybe 5 years, 4 years. But there's always somebody else with them, maybe an MFO inspector. And this past year there was a person for the ANR. This was the only year that I was not physically there for the inspection, so I can't really speak too much of it. But going forward, I guess that's what's going to be occurring is ANR is going to be part of these inspections. So like Scott said, you're going to be farmers are going to be dealing with multiple comments basically from two different departments, because one department is going to see certain things. The other one's going to see, might see something totally different. But I do sit on the CAFO stakeholders committee. They had a meeting yesterday, which I couldn't attend because of my leg situation. So unfortunately, that group is very large, and it seems like we sit 3 hours and don't get a lot accomplished. But we're trying to get this stuff in front of you legislators. I think there's supposed to be in 2 or 3 weeks. And some of the
We're staying pretty in tune with that. There's gonna come a time here in the next little bit, we're gonna ask for an update as far as where all that talk is going. We do have some House members that are keeping us in tune some, but we are concerned about that. We're concerned about this new language, which just mandates that everyone has to be an LFO. Or all LFO has to have CAFOs. And so we're staying in touch with that, and we're gonna help where we can with that. So yeah. What else, Larry, would you like us to know?
just like Scott was saying, whether it's CAFO or LFO, I'm not seeing the water quality side of it with this change that they're doing. I think it's more paperwork, the evidence that keeps getting put in front of us. It just seems like they want cleaner records, which at the end of the day is not going to change the outcomes. One thing is just basically we got to measure our pits every day, or every week, I should say. And then apply it accordingly, which for the most part we're doing now. And you got to move it around. So now you got to have better record keeping system, and as a farmer, you take like last year, the beginning of the year, it rained, the end of May, beginning of June. So farmers are trying to get their corn in the ground, and they're trying to harvest their crops. And when you're trying to also keep records in these conditions, they're not very accurate records. I mean, one day you're blowing it into a truck, your tonnage records for load of grass. Next day you're in a hideout. Well, it's a different size hideout. It's a little wet. How do you mark that down? You're not getting complete yield records, but you have to put something at the end of the year in front of for your permits. But so in our equipment, we keep putting more technology on there to get these answers. On our choppers, we get these harvest labs that record the yields and things of that nature. But what do you do when that technology goes down? You don't stop chopping and try to get it fixed, because when that technology goes down, it's not 1 or 2 hours. It could be 2 weeks, could be a month. And, we run a couple choppers. You're getting one that's got some very accurate information, and then the other one, somebody's writing in a notebook, so many loads per field and such now. But at the end of the day, I think what you really can assess the land is by looking at the soil sample results. Whether or not your records are accurate and stuff, the soil samples are not going to lie. if you got high phosphorus on your lands and stuff, well, that land should be cropped and nutrient supplied accordingly. Whether or not you get 2 tons per acre or 5 tons per acre, the answers, should rely on, the information that you're gathering there. Another thing I want to touch real quick on too, while I'm talking about some of these technologies, is I always go to these national no-till conferences, and I just recently went this year to St. Louis, and one technology it's starting to come into our area is the drone technology, and they're using this to maybe apply the cover crops a little earlier. They're also using it to spray pesticides and stuff. But what I'm hearing is the state of Vermont is holding that up because the language of whether you're doing an aerial or with a ground rig is not differentiated correctly, so they're not able to apply maybe a Roundup or something with these drones. So it leaves Vermonters at a disadvantage. That's something that is very accurate and less intrusive on your land because you're not compacting your land, and you may be able to just go do some spot sprays with these things and stuff. It's really really something that we need to be forward thinking on and helping the farmers, not putting us behind the other states. Another feature I saw out there is like we've had a lot of rain in the summer and stuff, so like the corn may have some fungicide on it. And our practice is the rigs need to go in between these row crop corns, and they're knocking corn over and stuff. These drones can fly right over the top of them and apply it foliarly, and they may not have to do the whole field, like I said, and they can assess the situation and just put what's needed. And it's a win-win for the crop to grow more healthy, and it actually pulls more nutrients out of the ground and gives the farmers a better quality crop.
Can you elaborate on that just a little bit more? I kind of lost on the first part of it. Is there's a holdup with the state that would keep this technology from moving forward?
It's the labeling for some of the chemicals.
Okay.
Last summer, Brevant Seeds had a field day, and they had a drone, and that was a discussion that this outfit was there with a drone rig. They're not these little drones. They're more like 4.
Oh yeah,
They're bigger.
I've seen them. Yeah, they're big.
Yeah, and they can do this particular outfit that I talked with out in St. Louis. They were basically doing. They said they could do 200 acres a day.
Yeah.
And it's not one of these. Here's the drone. Here's the chemical. Go fly it on. They have to go to aviation, basically an aviation school, and get certified to.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we will bring some people in and talk about that. I think that's very, very important. I thank you for making us aware of that. We'll bring some people in, Larry's, and have those conversations.
All right.
What? Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Larry, how many acres do you grow corn?
We planted approximately 1,200 acres this past year.
Are you using treated seed?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
We're also on UVM's trial for neonic seeds.
Oh, nice. How did that? Well, can we talk about that just for a second? How did the Heather Darby's coming in on Tuesday? I'm sure that's who you were working with.
Yes, Heather and Jeff Sanders.
How do you think with the drought conditions and all that that study went this year?
It's in my location. The trial didn't turn out very well. Of course, I do no-till also. A lot of seed population didn't come up quick, and there was a little bit of weed control issues that we did knock it back, but the population wasn't the greatest. It ended up okay, but this past year wasn't a good. And our plot just did not come out very well.
So
And
you had.
I
So you were.
think the thing about the seed is they're getting this neonic non-treated seed, but I don't know the viability of that seed compared to the other seeds. There might be other genetics in that seed that makes it early Viger out of the ground compared to this one or that one. It may even have nothing to do with a neonic, but they don't have a huge amount of these seeds that they can try on these different types of soils.
Yeah, okay. We'll be mindful of that. I think it's something, yeah, that's helpful as well. So just a little bit more on that. So on this controlled, testing that you were doing, you had neonic seed and non-neonic seed, standing side by each or whatever, or in different plots and just, measuring the amounts, the grow rates, all that, yield rates, all that. That's kind of how that went along.
Yeah, it's pretty comparable to the two. It wasn't really a huge significant difference. And we're trying to do it on land that had been in sod,
Mhm.
not something that's been turned over into the corn a lot of years. Because you want to look at the neonics, they're in there before, even before it's into corn. So they want to
Right.
be larvae and in that field. And I don't know the exact findings on what they came up with. I haven't seen the report, but
Yeah. Thank you. Helpful. Yeah, go ahead.
I think part of what he said too is the accessibility that it creates, like the genetic piece of it. Like,
Right.
it's hard to compare apples to apples.
Well, it is. It's
It's
just
not there.
or, it's BMR or whatever it is. Yeah. So we get that.
But if you limit what you can get, then even if you do neonics to no neonics,
Right.
there's other things like if
Right.
you can't get there because of that.
Yeah. Certainly a lot to chat about. Senator Plunkett was part of a group, LCAR, we call it, a rulemaking group, and they made the determination, amongst other things, that there might be some solutions if we can't get treated seed, to make sure that Vermont farmers can get treated seeds through a permit process, and also through the process of doing pest control management classes, certifications and stuff like that. So there'll be a lot more to come on that. Ultimately, at the end of the day, I think the real goal will be to make sure that we don't handcuff farmers into doing something that isn't going to work for them. That's what this committee will work hard about. So a lot more to come with that, but we did appreciate that ruling. It was helpful. Larry, are you good for a minute? Can we bring in Tim for a second?
yeah, go ahead.
Tim, come on up.
The magnet. I was running a 120 cow operation this fall. I sold my cows. Currently renting my farm out to a neighboring farm that also purchased my cows. I also did the neonics study with Heather this last fall, and I think my results were similar to Larry's. We had water issues from the rough spring we had, and then dry. Kind of did make a difference in the production of that. We had these problems. Didn't get the yields that we thought.
We had just a terrible year to be trying to do that. So
And yeah, that was, and you can't necessarily blame the neonics.
no.
Where's the farm?
And Frank,
Okay.
I'm right outside the village of Franklin.
Yeah.
And we took testimony that even if you're 25 miles away from somebody else, the weather could be completely different.
Oh, from what I heard, yeah, Addison County especially got hit.
Yeah.
Farmers down there.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I am still working with a farmer that purchased my cows and renting the farm. I've been working with him.
Is that a larger farm?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I got to the point with my farm, the reason I retired was finding help to do it. I heard you guys talk about stress. Well, no days off gets stressful after a while, so things aligned, and I decided to sell my animals and be able to have some time.
And how long were you farming?
All my life.
Yeah.
I'm the third generation. I'm
Third generation. How many acres?
about 440 acres.
Yeah. And how much is cropland?
About 240, 250 in that area.
Yeah.
And I rented that out to the farm in Buffalo counts.
Yeah. What types of soil?
Mostly low.
Yeah.
We have plenty of stones.
Yeah.
But, yeah, and you guys talked about, going through the little, inspections is stressful.
Yeah.
I got accused of being dishonest.
Oh,
And it was, my whole experience was kind of poor on that because when I got accused of being dishonest, they asked me to show them the location. I went to their specs of the location. They said, "You're being deceptive. I want to see the other side." I said, "Let's go see the other side." And then they refused to go inspect the other side. I said, I was very disheartened with that. You know, it's stressful enough when you're in an inspection, but to be called dishonest when you're doing it really adds a level of.
Did you, file a complaint or say?
No, I never filed the complaint. I just let it go. I knew what I was gonna get. I knew I was gonna get. Go ahead, Scott.
But you told us and we.
Yes, I
we
did.
Filed a complaint and then we had a meeting.
Yeah,
Later,
Was there some resolution with that?
I feel like the process was approved.
you felt it was afterwards. I never really got a feeling.
I thought they were very receptive in that meeting.
Hmm.
The
But-
agency of ag.
Right. But, and the end results, I knew I was gonna need a, leachate system for my bunker silos. They gave me the state engineers, they said, "We'll engineer it, you know, and we'll help you find the money to improve it." So the first thing I did the next morning, I called the agency engineers, got myself lined up. A couple of weeks I heard from them, they came up. I think it was a month or so later, they came back and said, "We can't handle this. We're gonna set you up with a professional engineering company, Cross Consultants." They did that. I met with them and I told everybody when I met with them, I want to get the thing engineered this winter so we can do construction in the spring. So I don't, you know, I've got to crop my crops in the spring. I wanted to get that all pushed through. So I wasn't doing, you know, meeting on things that weren't necessary. I could hire my construction company and, you know, basically try to align my cropping in between having the construction company around and that, not working with stuff that could be dealt with in the wintertime, I felt with. Well, nothing ever happened. It's still, this day has happened. And, we're still running, the farm's still running because I rented my farm out to the, he's now moved cows out with heifers. So the farm is still running, but the leachate's never been done.
were you parlor or type stall?
I was, well, I built a freestyle. My father and I in 2001 built a freestyle barn. And we put a parlor inside the old tie stall. It was what they call the step parlor, or it was kind of a combination. And we still had a tie stall in the old tie stall barn, which still exists. Well, no, Victoria now, but.
More like what they would call California parlor?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, that step parlor, California parlor,
Yeah,
there's a dozen names. for it.
you're right, exactly, yeah.
But we've tore that out now. We're making, it's a heifer facility now, so.
Yeah.
But, yeah,
What else would you like to tell us?
that's kind of just what I came to say is that I feel that there could be better communication between the farmer and the inspection.
Yeah. Well, we're gonna work on that. What are you doing now?
Basically semi-retired.
Yeah,
I'm helping the farmer out that's bought my cows and stuff like that. I've always enjoyed farming. And look, yeah, I heard you say, you know, you lose $100,000 a year, but when you're taking care of animals, it's not as simple as shutting the faucet off and doing that stuff. It is, you know, real stress in the farmer's life, but those animals are like pets.
yeah.
And you know,
How's the new guy doing?
oh, his financial struggles, he was telling me, you know, with the price of milk, he's lost like $8,000 a month or maybe it was 80,000. I don't know, but it was, he was saying, I forgot the number, but it's, you know, he's losing money.
And how many is he milking?
He's milking, I think around the 500 mark, I guess. I think it's around that.
Yeah,
Not really sure,
yeah.
but. Cause I think he's an MF12.
Yeah,
Is where he's at.
yeah.
Well, 1,500 of that'll go away, hopefully, if the governor's budget passed.
Well, and I'm done, so it doesn't make a difference to me, but it does. I think that
Right.
you guys are making a wise decision getting rid of that. I know the financial stresses, especially now with prices of milk being so low.
Yeah.
That's just another stress to these farmers that are, you know, they're working 7 days a week, like I was.
Oh, yeah.
That's tough.
Well, gentlemen, what else? What else? I mean, you're here. Anything else you'd like to add before we, move on to the next?
I mean, you guys had some other issues. It sounds like you're working on that. Some questions on
Yeah,
like where those were at, and maybe just a little more information to bring back. to the
Absolutely.
board. So you had water quality, which we talked a lot about. I don't need to talk about hemp. Solar on Prime Ag was kind of interesting. Farm
Yeah.
Relief Fund, we've had some conversations with others about that.
So let me tell you, let's,
And then,
just spend a few minutes on the solar part of it.
okay,
One of the issues one of the things I was actually, going with Tim as far as asking his acreage. And it's this, we want to keep, the project off of prime ag land. We really, really do. But we also want to help you guys make the land that used to be heifer pasture land that you're not doing anymore. And we want to make that more valuable to you. And lots of times they're just across the fence line. If you guys want to put solar up, that's great. Let's keep it out of the prime ag land. Let's have them put it in where the heifer pastures were. It's harder for them to build on. We get that. It's harder for them to manage it. We get that. But that is, that's on them. And I think that if we do not be mindful, we can see the future, right? The future is Massachusetts, Connecticut, other areas where the sprawl is starting to eat up ag land and farmland, and it's no longer there. And our job here as a committee is not to look today or tomorrow, but 300 years from now, so that your generations can keep on going, and you're going to have this ag land to farm on forever. And I get that you're going to get more, less land's going to grow more, but you're going to have the land to begin with. And I do see that there's a lot of land out there that is no longer being used by you because you don't pasture your land anymore. Let that land become more valuable, and that's where they can put their solar. That's where they can build housing if they'd like. But we're going to do our best to try to protect you guys to keep these people from stealing prime ag land. That's our goal. We don't have a bill written. We don't have a bill written. We don't have anything like that, but we've started the conversations. And that's, and we'd like to be, we also want to be very mindful, as Senator Heffernan has brought up many, many times, that it is your land, and it is your land, and that we need to be mindful that it is your land. So I'm gonna let these guys continue. I'm just gonna step out for a second.
So I had a question totally, anything we've already touched on. Any members of the Alliance do accessory on farm stuff? And how's that going?
yeah, so I wanted to know what that definition was.
Well, it could be tours of the farm. It could be bringing community people in, having dinner there or lunch. Could be a bunch
Yeah.
of stuff.
I feel like that's what I'm trying to do with my trail system.
Okay,
It's like,
yeah,
that's an accessory, trying to find an extra revenue stream.
Yep.
That might be attractive to something other than food.
but you haven't done
Kind
it
of
yet.
market. In the process,
Okay.
yeah, I registered with the state. We did a trial
Good.
pilot year last year with friends just to get feedback. And we started planning stuff, making trails for our own use, and right now friends, and tried a couple memberships.
One of the farms that's in Senator Major's district in Windsor County has a barn that for part of the year is just storage, hay, whatever. But then in the summer, they pull all that out and they actually have bands show up
Yep.
and they got in a hustle with, I don't know if it was a DC or A&R, or I don't think it was the ag agency. I think it was DC, saying that by definition, this is what you have to do. If the barn is not used primarily for storage,
Hmm.
they need a permit. And
Yeah.
I don't think we've got the answer that he at least hopes we're gonna get, but
So what's the conversation? There's always obstacles, like you try
Yeah.
to do something and then
course.
there's a zoning permit or
Yeah.
insurance issue, or so like what is the conversation and what's the purpose of the accessory on farm topic? I mean, it's obviously an extra revenue stream.
Yeah.
It's part of Vermont culture that seems some of that's marketable. You do get some marketing ability, which self-marketing fits good in a capitalistic approach. It pulls you out of commodity market a
Yep.
little bit.
Yep.
So I think it is good. The models are hard sometimes to work with and figure out, and how are you gonna make money off it? Which that's not new.
So that's why I asked members of the alliance whether anybody has raised their hand, and said, hey, we tried to do this.
Yeah.
We ran into this hurdle. How do we fix it kind of thing? Sounds like, I don't think there'd be an issue with your bike trails and all that. To me, that sounds pretty. Because part of this had to do with actual structure.
Yeah.
And whether they built it as a barn or it got into really
Mhm.
hard definitions. And like I said, I don't think we haven't reached a solution yet to my number. So. Nobody else,
I know I didn't want to try it while I was milking cows because it just seemed like I had enough on my plate. when I was-
yeah,
Yeah,
Time off was the,
sure.
no, it takes time to like these other ventures, like somehow you have to keep doing what you were already doing, but you
Plus.
to it.
Yeah.
So you gotta figure out the management strategy that's gonna enable you to do that, which takes a lot of thought, some extra hours and whatnot.
when is your plate full enough?
Yeah.
Yeah, and
And
when is
then
it
you got
detrimental to?
Workforce decisions. Should I hire a guy or gal?
Well, that's a whole other pool of
Yeah.
talk, because to try to find, like I was telling Scott on the way down, I had 4 high school kids, and my grandson's first birthday was 26th of August. It took me 2 weeks before that just to find one person to have one child.
Yeah.
That's when you're,
It's not like it
that
was
helps the decision.
not like
Yeah.
in the eighties when you could, like you said, go to the high school and
Yeah.
get 4 people that might want to come and work on the farm.
Or a large enough family, you could spread the.
Oh, I've always, through my whole years of farming, I always hired high school kids and I had them, I mean, they'd be there for a year or two and then, they'd graduate or they'd find a different job or something. You just always go back to the high school and find another one or find one of their friends. Another one, like that day's gone.
Yeah, I mean, like we're after higher profit margins, but like the gross income will never be what the other ventures are. So like we can have losses in the other business, which just eat up that margin
Yeah.
super quick. So you're weighing it that way too.
So I asked yesterday, the group that we had, and there were probably a dozen farmers, the gap between the federal milk price and what you really honestly need to at least break even, if not make a little. And it sounded like it was like $4 a hundredweight. I mean, I don't know where class one's still around 16 and change, 17 maybe.
They said around, I asked Matt, I think it was around 16 or 17.
Yeah.
It was in that area.
And most farmers you talk to gotta be north of 20 before you can.
Right, I was gonna say, yeah, at least 4, yeah, for what he was saying, yeah.
Well,
And not doing it that long ago, I would definitely agree with those numbers there, yeah.
I can see why there's stress.
And you know what labor's doing the whole time, like I said, you can't find these high school kids anymore, so.
Yeah.
if minimum wage is out the door, I wouldn't even worry about minimum wage because you can't even hire people for that
Yeah.
anymore.
Yeah, Senator Heffernan correct. We seem to have lost our work ethic somewhere along the line. I don't know where it went, but. They're
Just like that one, that would be,
That would be great if we could.
yeah,
And I don't mean to cast a wide net, but it seems like a lot of younger folks are more interested in being on their phone and doing some
Well,
other things.
I get concerned on another thing, I'm on the volunteer fire department.
Oh, sure.
And I just went to a meeting the other night, it's looking like all these gray haired guys, and I'm like,
Yeah.
it should be dark haired kids and, I mean, it is a problem.
Yeah, it's definitely like an educational issue. Like the younger generation just sends out email after email after email, and like it's not necessarily the way to get things done.
Yeah. Larry, did you want to jump in? I saw you unmuted.
Yeah, I just wanted to make a comment when you're talking about the financials there, because yeah, it's been very tough. It doesn't matter what size farm you're at. We just yesterday, we just had to go out, reach out to our line of credits there. And, you know, that's something that we normally don't do in January. Get, get by. Another thing that's going to hurt our community right here is we're hearing that Franklin Foods, it's a cheese plant right here in local Enosburg that's been here for 50 years, is going to be shutting its doors this summer. And that's more or less one of these corporate buyout things, because what it basically was a bigger competitive company that reached out and bought this company, and basically it was their competitors, so they're shutting the doors down. It's huge to this little community. You know, it's our town of Enosburg's. You know, you talk 3,000 people, and you got all these jobs that have been here for 50 years, and it's, you know, they're big for, well, the refrigerator company that works with them, that's one of their biggest clients. The electric company, that's one of their biggest clients. Water, it just keeps going. So you lose that, and there's a huge percentage of these little towns need to keep going forward as these businesses, and it's really unfortunate. I don't know if there's anything that's going to come in its place, but that's something that probably happens quite a lot throughout Vermont, and trying to keep these small communities viable going forward. You know, and ag's always been a big part of it. It's like you're talking about all these little startups here. You know, I saw it on TV in Walden or whatever. The guy had in the wintertime, their store's a restaurant for snowmobilers. You know, it's, you're thinking outside the box, you know, something like that. But they definitely need help. And I like the comment too about the prime ag land, keeping that out, keeping it for prime ag land, because we just saw that recently on 105 right next to the highway, very prime ag land, and now it's got all solar panels all up and down through there. I know there's a place for that, but it shouldn't be on the prime ag land. And going out to the Midwest, these no-till conferences, you'll see it even on a larger scale. There's these thousands of acres of cropland that are now factories, and it's, why do they have to put it on the best land? And you hear these AI places, these companies are going out to those areas because their permitting process is easier. So they throw it out there, not foreseeing that this land is never going to be cropped again. And it may look like it's okay to use, but you start adding these prime lands up, you know, across your town, your state, your country, it's going to come down the road, you know, 30, 40 years. So where did all this go?
Yep.
That's the question though. What's gonna happen to those things? They have a shelf life. That's gotta be a.
Yes, that question.
Oh,
the other day.
I inquired that. Supposedly they're 25-year life cycle.
Yeah.
And they said, okay, that's great. What happens in year 26? I'm trying to get to the end of it.
Right.
And well, we can store them and they don't leak. Okay. You still haven't sort of given me an answer. Do we crush them up eventually and put them on the road? I don't know what the answer is, but
That's kind of what I wondered.
Who covers the cost of removing them?
yeah.
Right, yeah, that's what I'm saying is, I mean, are you helping the farmers if they put this on their land and then year 26? The power company goes.
Yeah.
And then all that money they made, you know, that helped them financially, all of a sudden sinks them.
Right.
I
Good
wonder-
questions.
Those are,
Well, good. We're gonna probably move on. We want to thank you, gentlemen, for coming in. We're here. We're accessible. We're approachable. We always want to know what's going on. If you got a concern, get hold of us. We already, from what you guys have given us today, we have some more areas that we're going to be investigating and trying to be forward thinking. We're here battling for you. We really, really are. You got a great committee. Sorry that Joe wasn't here to see you today. Thank you and keep in touch with us.
Thank you, guys.
Yep.
yes, it's been very educational, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Good day.
Thank you for all your time.
See you, Larry.
Larry, good luck with your knee.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Yeah, you guys keep up the good work too.
thank you. Appreciate that very much. You guys need a 3-minute break or do you wanna, well, we're gonna wait till 10 o'clock anyways, because that's what it says. So,
I got it.
wow. We're gonna, gentlemen, just give us a few minutes here because we're on the schedule of at 10 o'clock and we kind of got that posted, so we kind of have to do it then. So give us a few